Hello, this is Mark Herman, and this is episode 3 in the Pacific War series that I'm sort of shooting as I play through the beginning of the campaign scenario, and hopefully it'll give you sort of a feel for, how do you start the Pacific War. This is really one of the most fun parts. And by the way, great solitaire. If you do nothing else, you can always, and there is a campaign scenario called the Southern Conquest, which is just sort of this part of the map, and you can really focus on that really complicated Japanese offensive. And it's not bad solitaire because the Allies don't have great forces, and so you can always make decent decisions for them that are the best. There's no place where they're going to be really dangerous. Other than you might get some good attacks and die rolls, you get some interesting narrative, but ultimately the Japanese are going to accomplish their objective if you do it correctly. It's a good place to practice. But anyway, this is the entire scenario, and as I said in the first episode, I set all this up to check the setups. As you can see, there's a lot of counters set up here, and I had to check all the replacements and reinforcements and all that. So good news is all has been done correctly, and you should have no trouble setting up. One of the things I learned from Jim Dunning and Lauren Go is that war gamers, if you can set it up, you can figure out how to play. And so I've always focused very heavily on getting the setups right. So I feel comfortable that this is correctly set up, and the corrections are in the rules and in the scenario booklet, so you should be in good shape. So let me kind of describe what's going on. So in episode 2, I talked about how, the basics of activation. So I'm not going to go through that here, but I'm now going to show you the bigger picture of that operation in a moment. So first off, let's get a little geography. This is China up here. We're not going to be doing much in there. This is French Indochina over here. Burma, Rangoon is here. And, India's off that way. You've got underneath here Sumatra, the Malay Peninsula. You can see all the British units and bases here. Borneo, the Philippines is over there. And Formosa in Taiwan is over here. And Java is over here. And the Celebes is over here. So you get the basic, geography. We're looking basically we're looking east. Reality is that it's an equal area map, just like this is from the original equal area map that I got from 1942. And so it's really kind of like north is really that way towards the, and it kind of sweeps around. Remember, the world's a globe, and it sort of peels it up and all that for the equal area map. Anyway, let me first show you why are we doing all this? So let's go back to, so over here you have Brunei and Miri, and this is a British Punjab battalion, which is the only forces they have there at the beginning of the war. And if I pull this away, you will see, wait, I gotta pull it away more, there's a shadow. You'll see that there's a number 8, and there's like a air base symbol. So basically the map's got these symbols on it, but unless there's a base unit, a base unit on top of it, it's just a place where you can build a base. So you need a base unit to activate the capabilities of a port and all that. And here's Brunei, where you can see a port and an airfield. So this is an important place to grab. And in Empire of the Sun, the first, the January turn starts with the Japanese control of that location. And that 8 is, there are 100 resource points, and they're divided historically out of the Strategic Bomber Study survey from World War II, which was done in it was done in the 50s, maybe? Late 40s. I think it was done in the late 40s, early 50s. It lays out where all this stuff was, and nothing's moved. So this represents 8% of the 100 points of resources you can capture. And so grabbing this location is the beginning of a good thing. And of course, if you can grab it before there's demolition rules, so the Dutch and these Punjab guys, if you don't get in there fast, they're going to try to blow these facilities up, and that's not a good thing. And as I said earlier, if you look over here, you see Task Force 14. Well, Task Force 14, which you can't see, is an amphib with troops, and these are the guys who are going to go across here and try to grab this location. So you see, this is how you sort of develop, but all you see on the map is Task Force 14, which has already been paid for. And normally, and also the planes, as I said, these would not normally be on the map. They would be in their force displays, but I'm playing solitaire. It's just easy for me to stack them up there. But in a real game, you wouldn't see those things because you'd be hiding these things from your opponent. But there they are. And actually, while I have it out here, I'll quickly This is an airplane. So remember, if you remember from the last episode, that's how it looks when it's unactivated. That's cost 2 to activate. This is a 2-engine Army bomber. It's a Sally. The numbers, it's an L1, so it's, these are veteran pilots, not elite, but they're veterans. The T says it's basically a tactical bomber. The 16 is its range, and that's not there and back, it's total. So you could fly out 8 and come back 8, or you can go 8 and go to someplace else for 8, or whatever you want to do. The 2 is in this case, because it's a 2-engine plane, it's anti-air strength, but it's really its defensive anti-air strength. It can't engage in dogfights, but if you attack it with airplanes, it'll shoot back with the 2. The 5 is, you'll see it's in blue, that's its air to naval strength. So if you're going to go after ships with it, that's what you would get. And the 5 is the air to ground strength. That's its bomber strength. And just to give you a comparison, here's an elite L2 air unit. This is the one that actually sank the Prince of Wales and the Repulse. And you'll note that its air to naval strength is a 7 in this case, and it's a better bomber strength. It's more accurate and all that. You don't have a lot of those. In fact, that's only like 60 airplanes. And so I think this guy came from up here. Anyway, so that gives you a quick rundown on those kind of units, and I'll probably do that throughout the videos. So now, what are we trying to accomplish? So now this is going to start to focus in on, the bigger picture. So, as my Japanese plane is unfolding, again, you can do this any way you want. I'm going to do two-week operations, 2 14-day operations. So the first two weeks is going to focus here, and the other 2 weeks is going to focus a little bit more on getting onto some of the Dutch islands like the Celebes and Borneo, and also dealing with Wake Island and all that kind of jazz. But this first 2-week operation is going to do as follows. So again, we have Manila here. Here we've got two Japanese divisions. We've got the 33rd and the Imperial Guards plus a tank brigade. The 33rd is going to head this way towards Rangoon and the CBI. The Imperial Guards is going to come around here and grab and convert these, capture these bases. Over here, we have the major amphibious forces, and they're going to come sailing around and invade into the east coast of Malaya. And historically, these were the guys that were seen, right, if you're reading any accounts of the war, these are the guys, and in fact, technically, and it can happen in the game that way, these guys will land and invade Kota Baru actually a few hours before Pearl Harbor is actually bombed. The actual war in the Pacific begins at Kota Baru because the Japanese invade there in that night, and I think the attack on Pearl Harbor takes place like an hour or two later on the other side of the Pacific. And then we have, as I said, we have this operation that's going to come across here and grab Brunei and Miri. We then have a 38th Divisions in this Force 74 is going to grab Hong Kong. And then over here, there's a task force with 2 battleships, I think it's the Congo and Haruna. They're going to come across this way to give, in case Force Z, which is the Repulse and the Prince of Wales comes zooping up this way, they'll have, between these planes and those 2 battleships, that'll kind of keep the British heavy ships from wrecking the convoy, which is what they were trying to do. And then there's an invasion of Lingayen Gulf will come in this way, and there's a lot of air power here that's going to bomb the heck out of the Philippines early in the game. And so that's ultimately, what we're trying to do. Now, just to give you a sense, again, you use scrap paper, but here are my notes for what I was activating and where. And, you could see it's, just a lot of handwriting. I've done this a few times, but what it adds up to, going back to the activation thing, is the Malaya forces are adding up to 32 command points. The Mindanao, which is the guys coming out of Palau going after Mindanao, is 12 command points. The Luzon invasion force is 41 command points. Hong Kong's 2, which is just that one division. And Brunei is 8. And that adds up to 95 command points. Now, as I said earlier, because this is over 31 command points, clearly, for the 2-week operation, we have to add 3 times the cost of the HQ. It happens to be a 4. It's buried under this pile here. The South HQ is buried in Saigon, but it's 12 points. So basically, this whole initial operation is going to cost 107 command points for a 2-week operation. Now, if we wanted to do a 3-week operation, the 95 would double, what is that, 180, 190 points, but the Japanese in the first turn of the game, which is the most they ever get, is 176 command points pretty much. It could go a little hard if you capture some merchant ships. But, so this is a 2-week operation, and 107 of our 176 points is being used for this first operation. And so that is how one starts to construct the big offensives that start the war. I will come back with episode 4 at some point. It's getting late in the day. I got to do some things, but ultimately I'll keep this series going for a little bit, just to give you a flavor of things. But I probably won't get through the whole first turn, just because, or it'll take me a while because I'm going to be leaving this location and I'm not moving this game, so it's going to stay here for a while. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying this, and have a great day.